We will stay with that issue because the federal coalition might have reformed yesterday, but that hasn't stemmed the chaos on the Conservative side of politics. Here's the Liberal and National Party leaders on Sunday declaring that the past was the past and the future's rosy.
I wouldn't be standing here today if I didn't trust Sussan Ley and I didn't trust the Liberal Party.
Yes, 100% I trust David and I value and respect the National Party. Out of this process, we are stronger. But the coalition is back together and looking to the future, not the past.
Now, a key term of this new coalition marriage was a commitment from the Liberal leader that legislation would go to the joint party room for final ratification, something she should have done and didn't do over those hate speech laws, hence the origins of this second almighty row. Yet National Party shadow ministers will still be shunted to the naughty corner for a month as punishment for their supposed breach of cabinet solidarity, when in reality, the only one who broke long-standing precedent by running scared from the party room is the leader, Sussan Ley herself. And as relevant as the origin of the mess might be, in the end it pales into insignificance when confronted with the horror show that is today's Newspoll. Now, I have been warning non-stop since we returned from the Christmas break, fix this, Liberals, or it will get worse. I said, if you think it can't go lower, it can. Sadly, that's precisely where we are tonight. The Liberal Party on a primary vote of just 15%, 18% if you add in the Nationals, meaning that's a whopping 14 percentage points down from Dutton's 32% primary at the last year's election. And that was so bad then, it was their worst primary result in history. But that is not the worst of it. The votes bleeding out of the coalition are moving across to One Nation. And Pauline Hanson's vote has climbed to an impressive primary vote of 27% today, making that a new record in Newspoll history for a minor party. Only One Nation's not the minor party anymore, is it? The coalition is, if that polling trend over the last 2 months is real. And if it is real, if it's replicated on election day, well, it is a bloodbath for the Liberal Party, as former frontbencher Jane Hume made plain today.
I've been looking at the numbers, just running a ruler over the pendulum. And I don't think that at this point there will be a single member of the House of Representatives from Victoria. There won't be a single member of the House of Representatives from New South Wales.
Now, when Hume was pushed about what's driving this free fall in voter support, she didn't miss.
Thinking about the election review that is due out any day now. Now, Peter Dutton was an unpopular leader. That will be the message of the review, but his polling was at around negative 24%. Sussan Ley's is now negative 35%. Do you know, 6 months into the last term of Parliament, Peter Dutton had said, this is what we stand for. He had announced that we were going to allow older Australians to continue to work without losing their pension. We had announced $400 million for youth mental health. We had announced policies to address domestic violence. We had announced a nuclear energy policy. I'm not entirely sure what it is that we have announced in the last 9 months.
Hume's absolutely right. It's not enough to be against a bad government. Voters have to know how things would be different and better under the coalition. And this is where Ley has been an epic fail. Yes, the Libs did eventually fall in behind the Nats late last year and belatedly rejected net zero. But there's still no coalition energy policy, even though the government's energy policy is slow economic suicide. And on immigration, the key driver of support away from the Liberals to One Nation from Ley, there's been nothing. Now, months and months ago, she effectively sacked Andrew Hastie, the then immigration shadow, because he wanted big changes both to the number of people coming into Australia and the sort of values they bring with them. Now, this was a power play by Ley and reflected the worry of so-called moderates, left Liberals, that even discussing immigration cuts could hurt them in leafy teal seats they're so desperate to win back. But this was wrong-headed, because right across the country, voters on the left and the right want migration reform. And unlike those in the well-heeled rich seats around the country, these everyday voters are the ones that live with the consequences of too many people too quickly. And increasingly, people who do not share a love of this country, the same love that those already here have in spades. Ley then said a policy's on its way. Now, it was deferred because of the Bondi massacre, fair enough. But at yesterday's press conference with Littleproud, we were told that what's coming will only be a set of immigration principles. No policy, that's all. Not a Fed income blueprint for change. So nothing on energy, nothing on immigration, and no other real policies to speak of. Now, for heck's sake, it's been 9 months since she took over as leader, and no policies. Now, I might remind her and her office, she was there at the time, but clearly she's forgotten, when Abbott took over from Turnbull at the end of 2009, he took a whole suite of policies to an election in just 8 months and got so close to victory that we ended up with that hung parliament. In that election, Abbott's primary vote, this is 2010, was 43%. 3 years later, it was a whopping 46%. 43%, 46% in 2 elections. And today, it's 18%, even if you combine it with the Nats. Now, look, the problem is the current mob in Canberra, they're not hungry. Where's the work? Where are the policies? Where are the policies? Because policies are what turn around polls, not point scoring or political rhetoric. Now, the reason why Liberal supporters are walking is because the Liberal Party doesn't know what it stands for anymore. The supporters know what they stand for, the party doesn't. And if this Ley leadership links on much longer, there's every chance there won't even be a Liberal Party anymore. I mean, it is that serious. Sussan Ley's leadership is terminal. She is gone. It is over. It is over. And frankly, and I have never advocated for this ever before, not even with Malcolm Turnbull, for the good of the party, Sussan Ley should resign. She should go. Because the first job of a leader is to keep the team together. Twice now, the coalition has split on her watch. On that measure alone, her time is up. The other job of the leader is to impart a sense of purpose. Now, at no stage has she been able to give the Liberals any sense of conviction. She's always been a political manager, not a warrior. And when her biggest calling card to get the job was her gender, not a fighting record, not what she wanted to do in the top job, but her gender, well, therein lies the problem. Conservatives do not have a problem with women. We have a problem when leaders, male or female, just sit there and mind the shop. Have a look at the results over the weekend from the Japanese election, where Conservative leader Sanai Takaichi won a whopping 350 plus seat majority in a landslide because she had tough, clear policy positions such as economic reform and military rearmament. Now, like Margaret Thatcher, Takaichi models herself on Thatcher. It's about policies, not gender. That's her game changer. When Ley goes, it's a when, not an if, the new Liberal leader must radiate a strong sense of purpose and direction from day one. It will not be enough now, not with a 15% Liberal primary, just to change the leader. It's what they do and do quickly that will matter most. Now, is Angus Taylor up to it? Let's hope so. For our country's sake, let's hope so. For the Liberal Party's sake, let's hope so. But unless he gets a move on, there may not be a Liberal Party left to lead. And without a decent opposition in this country, a truly bad government gets off scot-free and Australians are left without